welcome. So this is a brainchild of the core, the crew, the planning team. It's something I've wanted to do since the beginning. This is the third Mile High Dreamin we've done, and since the beginning it was like, let's do a Salesforce conference using Salesforce tools. I know it's a brilliant idea. We were the first to come up with it. And so it's a kind of an evolution. Obviously conference apps and things can be pretty limiting when you're trying to make everything work with one technology. And Salesforce, thankfully, can be the source of truth. And we're on our ever-evolving journey. And this year, I think we're pretty close to being all in on Salesforce, which is great. So we kind of wanted to put this talk together, and it's our first time. Hopefully, in the future years, we'll continue it, and you'll kind of see the evolution of how we continue to use Salesforce products to put on a Salesforce conference and then engage everyone in Salesforce at that conference. So this is our planning team, which you guys saw in the keynote this morning. Look at that. 4 of us are in the room. That's fantastic. So these are our tech volunteers. So what happened this year, which is why we always want to try to get mentees involved in Mile High Dreamin. We always want to give people real-world experience in an actual org so they can take that experience and hopefully help land their first gig. And so this year we had the benefit of Salesforce. Well, let me back up. Last year, we purchased an org. So we were actively buying a Salesforce org so we could run a Salesforce conference in Salesforce. Thankfully, Salesforce ran a program where they gave us an org, which was a fantastic idea. I'm pretty sure Eric had something to do with that, so thank you. And so this year, our tech volunteers were in what was it, February, March? We had gotten our licenses and we were like, well, before we get rolling full steam, let's migrate orgs, which is real fun. And it turned out one of the pieces we were aiming for this year was switching from a Wix website to a visual experience site, which used to be Lightning Community. Yeah. Portal? Everything's a portal to me. Dang. Yeah, so we were trying to host a Salesforce conference using a website built on Salesforce. And Nicole had done a great job kind of getting that ready, and we just couldn't get it migrated over in time and up and running in terms of also getting Blackthorn installed and then actively starting to sell tickets. And like really it was just we were building the train as it was rolling, and we had to make our choices for what we were going to do this year. So these were amazing people that helped us kind of get rolling in the new org, which did come with some Marketo things, not Marketo. Marketing Cloud. Pardot, yeah, Marketing Cloud, which we're trying to move over to that, but that's a process as well. So we're just super grateful for our tech volunteers. So this is the agenda for today, what it takes, the evolution, and then Paul's got some demos for you, and then kind of take a look at where we're headed next. So yeah, look at that, that's amazing. So what is involved in Mile High Dreamin? A whole lot of work that ends up with all of us taking a collective sigh of relief tomorrow at 4:30 when we all have a beverage. And in order to do that, it's about a 9-month process, realistically, assuming you don't have to pick a new venue. Part of that, a lot of it is project management, which is, I don't know if you guys have found a good project management tool. I haven't, and we've tried a lot of them. So it's just about choosing something and making it work, and then picking something else the next year. I think years 1 and 2 was Quip, and then this year we tried Asana, and next year maybe we'll use the new thing in Slack. Who knows? That's a different conversation. Obviously the attendees are the reason. Without attendees, we'd just be Britta and Paul and I eating $40 pasta. Like, there's not a lot to do without people showing up and enjoying the conference. Nobody from the hotel's in here. It's expensive pasta. The sponsors, obviously, what you may or may not know is, as an attendee, we try to keep the tickets low, and we haven't reached parity with what it costs for you to join us. I think we're at 50% of that cost. So the price you pay is heavily subsidized by sponsors because of the cost of the conference and the equipment and everything. We want to do everything first class and make sure you have a good event. So we focus on that. Speakers and sessions, obviously, that's why we're all here, and that is a ton of work. Volunteers are the reasons that you have badges and know where to go and how to get there, and can yell at somebody if something goes wrong. Surveys and polls, that's essential for, well, the polls for the demo jams that Eric's hosting, hopefully with a glittery jacket, and the surveys after. So tomorrow, right at 4:30, you're going to get an email. It's going to say, how did you like it? Thanks for joining us. That feedback is what we use to learn what we did right, what we did wrong, and where we can improve next year. So it is very valuable. We promise we don't make fun of you. We actually take it to heart. We make our adjustments, and pretty much everything you experience this year is a result of feedback survey from last year and from the year before. Specifically, last year we had smaller breakout rooms and more of them, but they were too full. So this year we have fewer breakout rooms that are larger. And that's just to kind of accommodate the audience and make sure it was a good experience for you all. So yeah, marketing obviously is essential. Budgeting is something that if you don't do it, you're in trouble because you can only spend the money you have. And since we're not a profit generating entity, we can only spend the money we raise from sponsors and then supplement with ticket sales. The venue, which is super grateful that we have this place. We found it last year and it worked well. And then we optimized for this year. And it's just great that we can take the whole place over and give you guys a space that you don't have to get lost in because some of them kind of can be cavernous or cave-like structures. So I feel like this one is a pretty welcoming place for us and they love having us. And then continuous improvement, obviously that's with the surveys and everything we do every year. We look at what made sense this year, what was too difficult for the core team or for volunteers, like how can we streamline that? Do we add more people? What do we do to try to make sure this isn't something that burns any one of us out? Because if that happens, then what's the point? It's supposed to be fun and enjoyable. All right, so the history of Mile High Dreamin'. As you all may know, there was an event called Dreamin' 5280 that Joanna put on for years, and that was prior to the pandemic. And then Joanna kind of retired from the community group, and then the pandemic kind of killed in-person events. So back in 22, I joined as a leader, and a few other people joined, and we were like, hey, let's try this thing out and see what we can do. Let's bring this conference back. So we did that, and that was fantastic, and that was at a much smaller venue. It was actually a catering company that had their own venue, so it looked cool, but it just wasn't big enough for anything larger than that. And that was, we didn't have a Salesforce org. We were using a demo org, actually. Lauren Lamont's demo org. She was fantastic, and definitely without her, we wouldn't have been able to do any of the check-ins or ticket sales, and or not sales, they were free back then, and it was a much simpler. We probably had 6 sessions and demo jam and sponsors on a mezzanine. So yeah, we've definitely come a long way from there. And then last year, again, we upgraded to our tech stack. We bought an org. We worked out a technology sponsor with Blackthorn so we could sell tickets and have all that information in our org, and then we could do check-ins and all that. All the registrations could happen through Salesforce. And then this year, we doubled. Yeah, this year we did close to 500. Yeah. And so that's kind of the absolute max of this facility. So we were kind of wondering if we hit that cap, is it going to be uncomfortable? And it looks like we're still hopefully doing well. We'll find out from the survey info whether this is a good home for us for next year, if we need to find something else. So yeah, we did 2022. We did Google Apps. The Wix site that Lauren built for us initially is still going. Then we had Trailblazer ticket community groups. They use Bevy. So if you've ever attended a community group meeting, you get your ticket there, register through Bevy. The benefit to that is it's automated. The downside is you don't get anyone's emails, and you can't really charge. I don't think. Can you charge for tickets in Bevy? We never tried because I don't know where that money would go. Then we did a Salesforce developer org with Lauren's husband, Jaleel, wrote an app called Native Forms, which is, we still use that for surveys and speakers and volunteers. So yeah, we're still continuing with that. Marketing was MailChimp. I was familiar with that, so I started that up and then still using it, so hoping to get off that for next year. So yeah, all those silly emails do come from me. I've been trying to stop doing it, but then it's just like, you know what, let's just send some things out. So we'll see what happens. And then we did, for our lead retrieval app, year 1, we went with American Trade Show. It was a simple thing. Sponsors paid for licenses. They had to download a third-party app and then scan the badges and got those. So there was only really one piece. It was that dev org in the middle there. And so then 23, we upped our game. We did use Quip in 23 as kind of a project management tool. Still Google Apps. Obviously, they've kind of been a thread throughout. And then we used the the Denver Admin User Group Slack workspace last year. And then the cool thing was, am I supposed to be doing this? Okay. I was like, I thought I was handing it off to you. You just tell me when. Okay. So the website remained Wix, and we improved that. And then we did purchase seats in a Salesforce org, and then we partnered with Blackthorn to be our ticketing and attendee registration. We used native forms again, MailChimp for emails, and then the least favorite, nobody from is anyone from Cvent in here? Okay.
Screw those guys.
Hey, I didn't say it. Cvent it's a great app. It's a good system. It's just unfortunately a separate CRM entirely. And so it led to a lot of double work for us to migrate everything from Salesforce into Cvent as a speaker and then update. Britta knows she was knee deep in Cvent. And so that was something we were aiming specifically to kind of overcome this year. Like, what can we do? How can we rethink the attendee app? We also wanted to prevent spamming and then a lot of the oversaturation that some of the Hoover apps can really inundate people with if they aren't treated very carefully in that respect. Anyone from Hoover here? I don't want to make enemies. I'm just saying. So that was last year, and then that's right. We've had conversations about this. So is it? You said that last year. All right. Is it your turn now? All right. I'm going to hand it off to Paul to talk about 2024. So thank you so much for listening to the history. Now we'll talk about the present and the future.
So this year, quite a few projects. Not all of them you're seeing today. But we switched to Asana for project management, which was helpful. Not Salesforce-based, obviously, and a separate system. But we did like that a little bit better than Quip, where Quip ended up being a document with a bunch of checklists embedded in it and kind of got hard to find out what you were actually supposed to do. We also, as Chris mentioned, got 20 users with some community license and Marketing Cloud account engagement as part of Salesforce trying to help the Dreamin events. So did a big migration, migrated all of our historical data because we have a bunch of reports and dashboards that we use. We also had everybody's contact info and things like that.
So then we migrated an Experience Cloud site that we had started. We're currently using Wix, but we had moved over to Experience Cloud and started building something that will probably launch next year. If you ever have a chance to migrate an Experience Cloud site, make sure to skip that. It took me about 80 tries to export the metadata and get everything to work correctly to move it over to the new org. So then we rolled out Slack to everyone. Hope you're getting in there and finding value and talking to other people and getting any questions answered about the event. If not, make sure to join our Slack team. We also use that internally for all of our project planning. The Mile High Dreamin planning team used it daily throughout most of this year and then invited the volunteers in to help coordinate everything and make sure this event goes off without a hitch. And then we replaced Cvent with a new custom app called Cloudapalooza that we use for sponsors to scan badges and capture lead information for everybody that's interested in learning more about their companies. That was a custom stack built on React Native by reusing an app that my company had previously built.
Year we've kind of touched on these, but 2022 was definitely just whatever works. Let's get some tech out there. Let's run a free event, see if something's going to happen. 2023, we started to try and move more towards Salesforce. So switching to a paid org, implementing Blackthorn. We didn't have a good event option. So we had to use Cvent, but did a bunch of migrations back and forth. This year, bunch of projects, which is why we have all those extra volunteers earlier this year. But migrating to the Salesforce org that we got was huge. And then, yeah, we started moving to Pardot, but we didn't quite get far enough to switch over. So like Chris said, we're still using MailChimp. We have something that a lot of companies don't have, which is we actually have periods where like nothing's going on in Salesforce, which is really nice. We don't have a very complicated like DevOps pipeline. we just do things right in production. We just have to make sure to like freeze code by the time we actually start using whatever we're building. But this is kind of what our timeline looks like. This is mostly reflective of this year. Obviously, it's changed the past couple of years. But this is probably similar to what we'll be doing again for next year's event. So first, like starting next week, we'll start doing planning. What do we want to do next year? What's better? Do we want to roll out Experience Cloud and Marketing Cloud and other things? What came up on those feedback surveys that you'll get, we actually do build a dashboard specific to everything that you put in that feedback survey and go over it together. So we do take that seriously, and any little detail you put in there, we'll read and help if we can. And then we get into sponsor. As Chris mentioned, sponsors are like the lifeblood of being able to host this and not charge like $500 a person. So having them, we start as early as we can to get the submission out there, give them the prospectus about what they're going to expect from the event, and start signing them up. And then we open for speaker submissions pretty early in the year, and we'll go through that demo where we actually call out to the community and say, if you're interested in doing one of these talks, submit your info. And then it goes to a team that anonymously reviews all those. And then we work out the schedule, try and figure out how everything fits together so that people can attend as many sessions as makes sense for their like role. And then what most of you have probably seen is the registration part, which we'll do a quick demo of, but mostly so you can see the back end. And then I just call the last thing the final rush, because that's really when we're just all scrambling to make sure everything came together. We've got badges printed, we've got volunteers assigned to shifts, we've got all the sponsors actually like registered and are ready, and we know where everything's gonna go in the space, and the hotel knows how much food to make, and all the little details that end up being 500 tasks or something like that. So I'm going to go into a couple of little demos. Just out of curiosity, how many people would consider themselves an admin in this room? And how many people are more developer level? Okay, that represents pretty much what the demo is going to be like, so that works pretty well. So first off, if you weren't a sponsor and you didn't go look at it, this is what we have currently for our sponsor form. So this is run with native forms. This is a native app to Salesforce. So we go in and build the form in there. People can indicate what they want to sponsor, fill out some info, and this goes into Salesforce. When it goes into Salesforce, it creates a sponsor record. This is part of the Blackthorn package. And we track them through these statuses. And you can see here, we've also got some other information related to them. I'll talk about lead scan later, and then every sponsor gets a certain number of tickets. So we set up a coupon code so that when they're going through the registration page, they enter that. It counts how many tickets that they're going to be able to use and keeps track of it here, so we can run reports on like how many of their coupons were actually booked. And then we built a little flow just to make sure that as sponsors come in, we're updating the accounts and contacts, because we sync contacts over to MailChimp and plan on using contacts in Pardot later, so we want to make sure all the sponsors are updated correctly. So this flow does an email to the team to let us know that sponsors submitted the form, because we want to get back to them pretty quickly. Checks to see if there's an account related to the record, because if someone like manually creates a sponsor, they may select the account. Then goes in, searches for the account, sees if they found one, if so, sets the account name, adds the account to the sponsor, and then does the same kind of thing for the contact. So checks if there's a contact, if not, looks it up or creates it. So that way all the sponsor records end up with an account and contact related to them without creating duplicates.
And then we also, since we're using Slack for everything, put in a Slack notification. So this is just using the built-in Salesforce action to send the sponsor to Slack, and then we have a channel in Slack that says, hey, FormStack is interested in sponsoring. And we can click the link, go to the record. Chris, since he handles most of the sponsor stuff, starts following up. So then we go and add them to the website, which is just going into Wix and uploading the logo and adding the link and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to see Wix and we have some time at the end, I can show it, but it's just standard. And then we have the sponsor coupon codes. Like I said, we add those and then just send them the coupon codes so that they can register. And then last, I'll show you, if this works, the lead scanning app. All right, so if you're a sponsor, you can go to this app and you just launch it, you log in with your sponsor email, it sends you a verification code, pretty easy, no password, and then you come to this screen, click the little icon on the bottom right to scan, you get somebody's badge, and we designed it so that if the Wi-Fi is really slow, it comes up with this message, because we know with this many people in one building, it ends up taking a while. I wonder if I printed my badge wrong. But eventually, this will actually load like their contact details. And even if it doesn't load the contact details, it saves it to the database. And when they go to do the export, it sends them an email with the title, email, phone. So this is what the sponsors are seeing when you go around to the booths and talk to them. They can also rate you. So are you medium interested? Is it hot? It's a really spicy lead. That was Chris's idea.
Only 4 stars.
Because Chris wanted mild, medium, hot, and spicy.
Okay, got it.
So we can customize it, and we may try some other stuff in other years, who knows. Yeah. And then sponsors can go here and add notes. So, you know, if somebody's interested in demoing a certain product, or if they want to schedule a meeting or whatever, they just add some notes here. Save that, save it, and then this will start syncing with our external database, which syncs with Salesforce. So this app is all done in React Native. So it can run on iOS and Android while building one app. And then it's syncing to a Supabase database, which handles the authentication and handles all of the scanning info. And then we've got Node.js syncing it with Salesforce. And then when they're done with the event, they just click this little CSV icon, and it's going to ask them if they want to send all their scans. And they get a CSV, so they're ready to import it into Salesforce. Any questions about the sponsor stuff?
Just to add, so this solves a need that we had as a team to not spend a whole bunch of money on lead retrieval when we didn't want to use all the features that also came with that same app. And so this is kind of a proof of concept, and so we hope it works because Company Cloud Answers is thinking about maybe offering this up to other Dream events as well to kind of make their lives easier. So you may start seeing this at more events around the country.
Who came up with this idea for an app to put your app? Because that could be used for other seminars, not just this one.
Yeah. And there are a bunch of technology companies that do like full event management, like C-Event we used last year, and they have a lead scanning thing, and you have to have the sponsors buy licenses and stuff like that. Basically, I was trying to figure out a way to do the sponsor lead scanning without having to like pay C-Event again. Yeah, and it was okay, but we had some trouble configuring it, and it is expensive for what it is, especially since we don't want their whole suite. We just wanted sponsor badge scanning, and we're still waiting for Blackthorn to add it to their event app.
December 24.
Yeah, so we may be using this next year.
Safe harbor.
But I basically posted in my company's Slack, and I was like, has anybody heard of just like a QR code scanner that is like free or inexpensive that we could use to have sponsors scan badges? And the only one we could find was one that had a huge security issue. There is a company that makes a whole bunch of event software, and they give away their badge scanner for free. But you have to put all the contact info in the QR code. So anybody could go around, scan the QR code, and just get the data. And so we didn't want like people that weren't paid for a sponsor or people that were just trying to stalk somebody to like get their email and things like that. And so we're like, well, we don't really want to go with this, but that was kind of our backup option. I posted in our Slack, and they were like, oh, this is exactly like this app that we built for Ram Racing, which is a company that runs running races around the world, well, mostly in the US, but so if you go to like register for a running race, they email you a QR code, you use that to check in. So we had already built a very similar app, and so we had the knowledge. We just spun up some new mock-ups in Figma, put together a new app, and then did the Salesforce sync. I think overall it was about a month of development from 2 people. So, and they had other projects they were working on at the same time.
Yeah, I saw that, and I noticed that instead of like taking attendance or who kind of like talk to them, it was pretty nice that they were scanning it instead of collecting that manual information.
Yeah. So, next up, attendees. Hopefully everybody's familiar with what the website looked like. And then the registration, once you click that link to get tickets, you go to the Blackthorn page. So I'm going to bring you up a not fully configured one in the sandbox so you can see like kind of how it starts. Blackthorn has a bunch of different templates, so this is one that we use. They have other templates that are better for like if you're running multiple events throughout the year, but we like this single page wide one. And this is kind of what you get out of the box. You can have like speakers, custom content, the sign up page, and the contact form. And then obviously we took a little bit of custom CSS and then put images and stuff like that and got the registration page that you use to check out. Which, in case, well, I don't have that link ready, so. And then after you sign in, you end up getting added to this event. So in here you can see we've got the attendees related to it, and these are all fake people, so don't worry about, I'm not sharing anybody's contact info, besides my own email. But yeah. So this is how you look in the system, and the attendee comes in typically with the line items related to the invoice for your payment. We've got a QR code. This one we did as a formula for testing the event app. And then, again, we link you to an account and a contact, so we've got contacts ready for emailing. We can see your registration status, and then we also go in and use this to check people in. So the front desk was actually using a bunch of list views on the attendee object with just the check-in as one of the columns. And so when you show them your ID, they just check the little box, and then also check your shirt size and stuff that you submitted in the registration form.
Why people register?
Yeah. For anybody that registered in like the last week, we had already placed the shirt order, so we just get a few extra of every size, but if we have a lot of people do that, it actually does cause problems. And then lastly, the badge printing. This is another thing that came with Cvent last year, so we had to find a new solution this year on how to print badges. Luckily, the printer that we use for those badge labels has this portal, so we just go in here, edit the badge template. We can upload a CSV to this, so like on Monday night, I sat down, exported all the attendees, imported the CSV, and just let the printer spit out 460 labels onto my floor. And then the volunteers all showed up yesterday and pre-applied the badges for everybody that had signed up, so that we had those nice stacks ready for you when you showed up today.
And that's it. Any other questions on the attendee? We'll get into sessions next, so I'll show you how the attendee link gets generated as part of that. So last up is how the speakers go through the whole flow. So the first step is another native form. So just so you can see what it looks like on the inside, if you go here, you go into the form builder for native forms. You can choose an object, and then it brings up the fields for that object, and you can just drag them onto the page, and you build this, which ended up being the speaker form. And you can preview it, so this is what the speakers saw. So we get their background, we get some details on whether they're a woman or underrepresented. We get obviously the session details, like what are they trying to present, what their target audience is, and then for sharing later, we get all their socials. This goes right into our Salesforce org. This is a custom object that we built because we wanted to have the submission separate from the actual sessions that got approved. And so this comes into a custom object with all the details. This is actually what I submitted to test the form, but also to see if our rating people would be interested in me doing this session. So the next thing that happens is we go and double check them all. So Christine and a couple others went through and actually looked at all the submissions to make sure they were all valid. There wasn't any personally identifying information in the description or the title. And then we get together a group of volunteers, people that kind of represent the people that should be attending, and then we have them go through and rate the sessions. So this year, we used a form in Experience Cloud. Of course, the one link I don't test login stops working. Okay, I'm going to show you the flow in Salesforce because that's not working for some reason. That may be it, but that might log me out of all the other stuff I'm going to show. Okay, so, and this will help you see what the flow looks like anyway. So this is the flow we built and exposed it in a Visualforce, in a Experience Cloud site, so that the volunteer team could go through and rate the sessions. So we've got a little screen with the instructions. We go and see if they've already rated any, because sometimes when you're going through, I think we got 150 submissions this year. People want to take a break and come back and finish it later. So we check to see if they've already completed some. We loop through those, add them to a set, get the speaker submission records that are not in that set. So those are the ones that they still have to rate. And then we also calculate the session count. So they get a nice little progress thing as they're going through. And then we loop through the submission records and show them the rating screen. And then if they happen to make it through all 150 something, which the majority of our very patient volunteers did, they get a nice thank you screen at the end. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is embedded in a site, so there's like a header and a logo and stuff on it. But they basically say, you know, here you go, some basic instructions. Click next, and this is what they get. So as you can see, we don't have the speaker or any details that would kind of sway them if they know the person or anything like that. They just get the session and kind of the meat of it so that they can hopefully objectively rate it. And then our main rating criteria this year, which sometimes does change year to year, is how relevant is it? Does it stand out from others? We don't want a bunch of the same session. And what's their best guess of how many people would be interested?
So they go through this, just choose a couple boxes, hit next. This counter updates as they go through so they can see how far they've gone. And then if they reload this page, it'll start over and tell them like how far along they were, because it counts however many they've submitted in a previous session. And then once that's done, there's a lot of manual outreach to confirm that they're still good, because things happen, life happens. So we say congrats, make sure that they're okay with the timing, and they're still available for the conference, and then we make the final list of sessions. Those sessions end up uploaded into a Blackthorn object called sessions. So this is actually the sessions that are powering the link that was emailed to you that you can use to bookmark these. And if you click into these, we had 50-ish sessions, so I ended up actually exporting from the speaker submissions and then importing this object and the related objects. So we have the actual session details, and then related to it, we can see the people that have bookmarked the session. So as you're going through and checking those boxes on the attendee link, you can see who's registered. We added the speakers so that if you expand the session on the attendee link, you can see the speaker's name next to it. And then the filters that are at the top, so you can filter by like admin, developer, architect, whatever you're interested in, are added as track sessions, which is a junction object between tracks and the sessions object. And then event item sessions, Blackthorn has a thing where you can have different sessions for like different ticket levels. And tickets are set up as event items because not everybody's selling them, so it may just be RSVPs or something like that. But we have to relate all the sessions to event items so that we know which people can choose which sessions. And so once this is all put together, let me grab my record. We get this link on the attendee record, which is the one that we emailed to you, and it's unique to each person. Don't copy down that street and start registering me for stuff. And then you can go through and start signing up stuff. And then we also upload it to Wix. It's been interesting. I got into Wix as part of this, and now is like moving over to Experience Cloud. I keep going, oh, I wish Experience Cloud had this. I wish Experience Cloud had this other thing. So those sessions that are displayed on the website are uploaded to a collection here, which then uses this dynamic page layout rendering to render it on the sessions page on the website. And that's it. So next year, we're looking to actually launch the Experience Cloud site that we started. The goal there is to have it more data-driven. So right now, I manually go in and like publish the form on the website when speaker submissions open, and then take it down when it closes and stuff like that. Those kind of things we could theoretically have happen automatically, or at least schedule ahead of time from like a record in there. And we can also have sponsors have a different experience than volunteers, than speakers, than attendees, and they can all log in and see data that's relevant to them. And then we've got some other goals that we'll figure out in the next couple of months to try and streamline stuff. One of the things, for example, we didn't get to was having like the the sponsor contracts auto-generate and then feedback to Salesforce and like auto-confirm their record. And those kind of things, when you're trying to run a conference for 500 people with a core team of 5 people who also have day jobs, will hopefully make a big difference over time, and we can spend more time on things that make this even more fun and better for everybody instead of manually updating websites and downloading and uploading records. If you want to help with any of that, we are going to be looking for volunteers next year. So especially if you have experience with admin type stuff, like Experience Cloud or anything like that, let me know. Again, I'm Paul Fox. I'm in Slack. You can just send me a message. Otherwise, any questions? Thank you.